What a brilliant decision you made to join us in the trenches today. And it is In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And we are coming to you from the studio that they provide for us, which is awesome. And so is our guest, new Bengals defensive coordinator, Al Golden. He has been an assistant coach, a head coach, a defensive coordinator in college football and in the National Football League. He's been a position coach and now a coordinator. He has such a wide perspective of what's expected in order to be great. And he wants to be exactly that. His defense at Notre Dame was phenomenal. I think they overachieved. They had a 13-game winning streak that took them to the national championship game against Ohio State, and the defense was a big part of that. But when you talk to football people about this coach, Al Golden, they say disciplined, organized, detailed, collaborative. What he is, he's a teacher. Great football coaches are teachers. He has got his PhD in teaching the game of football. And I can't wait to see his defensive football team. It's going to be very creative. They're going to look one way pre-snap, another way totally different to the eyeball post-snap. And he's going to continue to build personnel-wise with free agency, retaining some of the players defensively, going out in free agency and getting other players, and then the draft. It's all coming together. And Al Golden, he'll mix it all up, and the final recipe will be a very, very good defense. We know it's an exciting time in the National Football League. It's Combine Week, and we know that you're interested in it. We know that you want to give some time to it, and we do appreciate the time you're giving to it. And thank you for joining us in the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And as always, we're in our phenomenal studios that they provide for us. They're second to none, as is our guest. He is second to none. He is one of one. Al Golden, new defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. Let me tell you some things, talking to football people around the league. By the way, Al Golden has been a position coach, a coordinator, and a head coach in the game of football. He has sat in every seat, every big seat. I mean, he has been exposed to all of it. Here's what some of the football people that I talked to, what they had to say about Al Golden. He's detailed, extremely organized. He's very collaborative, extremely creative. Coach, welcome. And that's pretty high praise right there. I mean, those are pretty good adjectives there, Coach.
I didn't know you were talking to my wife, but I appreciate it. No, it's all good. I mean, I love the staff that we've put together and under the leadership of Zach, and it's been great. You know, we went right to work. Every day we make sure we devote 4 hours to football and trying to piece together the direction that we want to go defensively, and then we do individual projects or evaluations in the afternoon. So it's been busy, but it's been awesome getting to know these guys really well.
So you have had multiple meetings as an entire coaching staff, then both sides of the football, all three phases.
Yeah, I think I don't want to speak for Pitch or Darren, but you know, on defense, obviously this urgency with a lot of new pieces on defense, but and Jordan and Chuck have been great. You know, really kind of allowing us to understand, you know, where they left off last year, what the players know right now, and what's the best path forward for us and obviously all the new coaches. So it's the confluence of that's ultimately going to be who we become. And I couldn't be happier than to work with these guys every day. It's been great. I'm so glad we got different perspectives, and we got guys coming from, you know, New Orleans and the Green Bay system, and We just got so many different perspectives now, and obviously we got to make some tough decisions here moving forward, schematically, and do what we think is best for our guys moving forward.
The last time you were with the Cincinnati Bengals, you were filling in the linebacker coaching position, and that 21-22 season, sitting at 7-6, win 3 out of the last 4 to get in the playoffs, go on a playoff run, win 3 in a row. So you win 6 out of 7, and ultimately, a close football game, 23-20 to the Rams in Super Bowl 56. Don't quite get the 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 big banana, but man, you're in the big show. Then 2 years later, less than 3 calendar years, days on the calendar, you go on a 13-game winning streak with Notre Dame. I mean, the second game of the year, you beat Texas A&M. The second game of the year, Northern Illinois pulls an upset, and you're 1-1. So your football team could be like, we're packing it in, or you know what, we're going to do something. Man, did your guys do something about it? 13 in a row, all the way to the championship game against Ohio State and fall just short. But coach, for you to get to the big show in the National Football League and in college football in a span of less than 3 calendar years in terms of days, I don't know how many people have done that. I mean, that is rare in 2 different levels. I mean, in the National Football League, in the highest level of college football. I mean, that's unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, it was a great experience. Obviously, been around so many great players to be with, and coaches, and then ultimately to share it with my family was awesome. But we came back to Cincinnati to win it, and I think the one thing that is consistent with both those teams in terms of defense and was continuous improvement, being really good at the fundamentals. Game plans can change week in to week out, but how you defeat a block, how you disrupt the football, the importance that you put on disrupting the football, the culture that's created, how well you tackle in space, all of those things that we're going to get to work on here, late April or early May. And hopefully that will become, part of our DNA by the time we go to work in September.
It is remarkable. I mean, at Notre Dame, obviously, you have an opportunity to recruit not only high level football players, but high level people. I mean, you have to have something above the shoulders to be able to get accepted at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame doesn't give mulligans. These guys have to be good students as well. At the Combine this week, where you are right now, you're in a hotel room at the Combine, and we certainly do appreciate you joining us from Indianapolis. But Notre Dame, they've got 2 defensive tackles. I believe they're both defensive tackles. Kylie Mills and Howard Cross, the third. Got a linebacker, Jack Kaiser. You've got defensive back Benjamin Morrison. I think that dude, man, and Xavier Watts. I mean, you got 5. Marcus Freeman had something cooking there. A lot, you were a big part of that as well, Coach. You get 5 defensive players at the Combine as seniors. That's pretty awesome.
No, it's great, and that was a tremendous nucleus, and what you just described right there, with the exception of Ben Morrison, that made us really strong up the middle. Defensive tackles, Mike linebacker, safety that can, command the defense on the back end. So that made us hard to beat. They were super on the grass in terms of their decision making and getting us in the right place schematically. So I think that obviously is something that I've learned over the years, and looking to repeat that here.
So I guess with that said, Coach, at this Combine, it's supposed to be a pretty good class of interior defensive linemen. There's some edge people. That is supposed to be an area of strength. Do the Cincinnati Bengals concur with the quote draft gurus that there's some talent there?
Yeah, I think you could say that about the entire defensive line, whether it's end or tackle. So obviously we've been interviewing, selective targets, and communicating with them and trying to identify guys that match our vision and our culture. So it's been exhausting, but at the same time, it's awesome to go through it and really identify and have a strong conviction about specific players. And it's great to hear these young men get their opportunity as well.
2 words you used right there, culture. That's something that people talked about too, that you build an unbelievable culture for your football team. And then vision. You know, when you bring a player on board, no matter what stage of their career, you have a vision for that player, and you're going to develop that player. And there's meat on every bone, you know, of a player. Some of these young guys have a lot of meat on the bone. You know, the older guys may have a little bit less time, a little bit less meat to develop, but that is obviously has been and will continue to be one of your big strengths. Do you take pride in that, Coach?
I do. I think every player deserves to be developed, and I think having been through these, these cycles enough to understand that you're going to need everybody, on the 53 to help you at some point. People look at the final product in 21 when we were here last, but the reality was there was a lot of games where guys had to step up. I remember vividly, Logan getting injured before Denver and Joe Bocci having to start that game. I can remember vividly, Pratt getting a COVID diagnosis on Thursday or Friday before Kansas City. And, Marcus Bailey having to, start and step up in that game. And I can go on, but you're going to need everybody on the roster. And more specifically, Dave, what you have to do and the way you develop depth is it's not just vertical depth, it's horizontal depth. And people sometimes lose sight of that. It's not just 1, 2, 3. It's can this corner play nickel? Oh, and by the way, on third down, can he play, free safety? This guy's a longer linebacker. He can play, Sam in base. He can move inside to the will in nickel. Oh, but look at this, man. We go to 4 down, he can give us rushes on the edge. So it's just finding those jobs that guys can do, identifying that, and make sure the player starts to learn that. Hey, look, I know you're not number one in this right now, but there will be a time. And when that time comes, the Bengals are going to need you to step up. And I think, that was, there was a lot of guys on that 21 team that really stepped up when their opportunities became available.
Boy, that was another thing, Coach. I had about 25 words that I could have gone through when I was asking football people about you. I mean, they were just ripping all kinds of, I said, give me a 1-word summation of Coach. And everybody had all kinds of different adjectives. But the other one was that you are amazing at identifying guys that have position versatility and employing that position versatility. The pre-snap, post-snap snapshot picture is different. You'll show them one thing, and then at the snap of the football, because you got guys that are versatile and you can do a lot of different things with them, show them something else totally differently. And like Dax Hill is a great example of that. Now he's coming back from that ACL, but like you mentioned, Coach, slot corner, outside corner, safety. I mean, that dude can line up anywhere. BJ Hill, unrestricted free agent. Hopefully he return. He can play nose. He can play 3 technique. I mean, you got different examples.
Sure.
And I mean,
those are 2 good football players right there. And our job is to get the talent on the field and find ways that, can accentuate what they do best and get them the matchups that they need, to be the best and to impact the game. So you mentioned earlier culture, like a culture only occurs when the players are empowered. This will be their defense. At some point, they are going to have to make decisions on the grass that put us in the best position. We can give them a call on the sideline, but we have no idea with this day and age of empty one play, under center, jet motions, all the different things that teams are doing, whether it's 12 personnel, 13 personnel. In our division, you see 21 personnel in addition to 11 personnel. So you're going to have to have a lot of guys that are empowered, that really have a stake in it. And I think that's really important, that when the guys come back, that they have a stake in this. Like how important, ball disruption is going to be to us is going to be determined by our leadership and how the guys approach it on a daily basis. But ultimately, that's what your culture is, how we create value individually.
And one thing that you did well at Notre Dame and it's going to be a priority, like you mentioned, the AFC North. Everybody can run the football. I mean, this division prides itself on being physical and, getting out to people, line of scrimmage, and running the football. You have shown that your packages and your personnel within those packages can stop the run. That's a big deal.
Again, I think everything starts with the AFC North. How we approach the offseason, how we select our personnel, because that's what gets you into the tournament. So I think that's the first priority is, determine how we have to play those 3 games, and then develop a system that's flexible enough that you're not having wholesale changes come Wednesday and Thursday morning of game week. We really, pride ourselves on the guys playing fast, executing at a high level. And I think this is often overlooked, Dave, because we look at these players as employees, as hired contractors, if you will. But man, you got to love the game. You got to play with energy. You got to play with passion. You got to love the guys that you're playing with, and celebrate and play with a lot of energy for those 3 hours that you get on Sunday. And obviously that will be our aim moving forward here.
You mentioned it, and by the way, I don't want to get too far into our conversation without mentioning that with the run that you had at Notre Dame, where you went on that 13-game winning streak, and I know, back in the day, Newt Rockne and others had, 4 national championships. Well, they had some runs, but 13 games in a row in this era of football is phenomenal. I don't know where it stands in terms of Notre Dame history, consecutive games won and all that, because of the rich history that Notre Dame has and how they dominated back in the World War and all time frame and all that sort of thing. But man, that's just an unbelievable accomplishment. It's something that you and your players, I mean, you guys will have that bond the rest of your lives, and there'll be reunions and there'll be all kinds of good times with that football team, Coach.
What's really cool about that is, there's probably, I don't know, I haven't looked at it, but there's probably, I'm going to say 7 or 8 teams that have more guys here than we did, and at the same time, we were top 5 in terms of playing true freshmen a year ago. So those 2 things right there, I can carry forward to this year coming up. Yeah, you got the trays. You mentioned, I can't mention too many guys because you know how it is with contracts, but
Sure.
You mentioned BJ earlier, and Logan, right, and all those. So you're going to have those veterans, and then you're going to have guys that you bring along quickly. And I really don't want to hear that so-and-so is a rookie. If we drafted him, if we signed him, our job is to get him in the game. And our job is to make that transition, really, we always talk about the transition's got to go from their head to their heart for them to play the way they want to play and to impact the game that we want them to impact. So they got to learn the terminology, go out there and rep it, practice it, quality control it, and then get to a point where they're just playing fast. And that's what we plan to do with the guys that we bring in is get them on board as quickly as we can and have a really great plan for transition them onto the field.
You mentioned Logan Wilson. He was the first linebacker you drafted when you were here that year with the Cincinnati Bengals, Jermaine Pratt and Marcus Bailey. The Bengals have not drafted a linebacker since that draft. I mean, you were the last linebacker coach that had influence enough to get linebacker draft. Just kidding. I mean, it just falls that way. There are different needs.
Sure.
The draft falls different ways. Free agency is a factor, all that kind of thing. But the relationship, I mean, Logan Wilson, he talks about you like, this guy, my football career and Al Golden, I mean, it's symbiotic, man. I mean, he really thinks the world of you.
Well, again, Logan and I share, I don't want to say a blood oath, but I was one of the coaches that I landed in Denver, and I drove through the snow up to Wyoming to watch him work out. And he was on the other team on the Senior Bowl, so I had a chance to really look at him. I'm like, I kept saying to the guys, like, this guy is really, really athletic. Like this guy, but when I say we have a little bit of blood oath, is Logan trained in San Diego, I believe it was, right? So he trained at sea level, and then he comes back like the day before, like he totally forgot about the climate. So we're like 5 minutes into the workout,
Yeah.
We had a great meeting the night before. I had him, running the film, and we're doing all that. And then we go out in the field the next day, and we're like 5-10 minutes into the workout. And I'm just looking at him, and I'm like, what is wrong with him? And he finally figured out, like halfway through the workout, that he just wasn't receiving the oxygen that he needed. It was just bizarre, but it didn't deter the way I felt about him. I had watched him work up close in the Senior Bowl, and I felt really good about him in terms of his football IQ. And I think the one thing, just watching the film from last year, I just can't wait till he gets back and he's healthy, because there's so many athletic plays. I don't see anything in terms of losing a step there. I watch him in space. The number of interceptions that he's had in his career, I don't know, Dave, is there anybody else at linebacker in the NFL that has that many in the same span? Like, that's a big number for a linebacker.
I think he might be tied for first. I think he might be tied. I think there's one other that's close, or if not tied, is one. But I mean, what an athlete! I mean, the guy played what? He played running back, didn't he? I mean, wasn't he a quarterback and a running back at first?
Well, I don't know if he played running back. He was a kicker. He was a corner. Okay. And then at some point just started to make the transition. So I remember watching all of his games and just thinking, that pass production was there in college. If you can go back and look at his stats in terms of interceptions in college, that he just has a knack for the ball. And then when he gets the opportunity, he converts. And I think that's really important, because that's what you need to change the game. You need to take the ball away, get the ball back to our offense, get them more possessions in a game. And obviously anytime we can shorten the field for them, that's going to help.
So, Coach, here we talk about the linebacker position, some of the players you have there. I don't know how deep the draft is at the linebacker position, but I'm sure, there's going to be, at some point in time during the draft, the linebacker is going to be discussed when that particular round comes up on the board. Let's talk about some of the guys in the secondary, some of the young guys that you have that you're so good at developing, and they have to be thrilled to have you working with them. Cam Taylor-Britt, DJ Turner, the second, DJ Ivey, Jordan Battle, Josh Fig-Newton. I mean, a lot of these guys are, man, they're in
Wilson, Davis. I mean, it's a really good group. And then, the Battles and Stones and Tyson and Anthony, it's a really good group. It's a diverse group. And again, we're not afraid to run, dime packages on third down. So there'll be 6 DBs on the field. We have to find the matchups that we want. And then the structure, after you find the matchups that you like, then it's the structure in terms of what we want to look like pre-snap and how do we want to make sure we structure it so that we get, our best on their best.
So let's go up front. Obviously you mentioned Trey Hendrickson and his situation, but it's some of these young veteran players, Miles Murphy, Chris Jenkins Jr., McKinley Jackson. It's a deep draft, as we talked about as well there. Yeah, Cam Sample, Joseph Asai on the edge. You've got some young guys that need to be developed, and I'm sure they're going to just latch on to everything you have to say and everything you tell them to do, Coach.
Yeah, I think over the last couple of years, Trey, Sam, BJ, all those guys have provided a great example of what it means to be a pro for that next generation, for those younger guys. And again, I can't wait to meet Murphy. Joseph and Cam, that was part of our last draft class when I was here last time. And so they have both been working out at the facility. So I've had a chance to see them. They look great. I'm excited about them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing, Jenkins and Jackson and those guys. But I'm really just excited about those guys and to see, look at what they do and how they move and how they learn and get them in a position to impact our defense. Because that's really important, is to get the pieces in the right position where they feel like they can have success, they can impact it, they have great morale, and they know they're contributing to a winning defense. Coach,
talk about 2 new coaches that have come on board in your staff. Defensive line coach Jerry Montgomery comes to you from New England, and linebacker coach Mike Hodges comes to you from the New Orleans Saints. Talk about those two young coaches and how did it come about that you were able to secure them here to this staff?
Very fortunate, honestly. So I think one of the things that I've learned over time is it's really important to surround yourself with good people, but it's also important, equally important in this day and age in terms of defensive football, to surround yourself with guys that have, different outlooks, that come from different systems. And those guys certainly do. I think what they bring is a different perspective. So you have, Chuck and Jordan on the one hand, kind of making sure that we understand, where we're at currently, and what the players currently know. And then you have this, really breath of fresh air, if you will, of guys coming in and saying, well, have you ever thought about doing this? And so I'm having so much fun working with those guys. I think they're tireless workers. They're true professionals. Jerry has been phenomenal. Really, anybody that could stay in Green Bay for 9 years, or one team for 9 years in this league says a lot about them.
Yep.
And he's a consummate pro. And I could say the same thing about Mike Hodges, because he's been with New Orleans now for quite some time. I think 6 years. So it's been great getting them all in the room together and just listening. And obviously plotting a course for the 25 defense.
What they talk about with you is the other word that you mentioned, collaborative. They're like, man, coach is awesome. Coach has got phenomenal ideas. I mean, coach is running the show, and he's just throwing, pearls out, gems out every single day, every single meeting. And they said, but you know what? He'll ask, what do you got? What do you think? He said, he's looking for our opinions, man. It's like, it's just, he just wants to have suggestions, recommendations, maybe things that worked for us where we might be able to implement wherever. I mean, that says a lot about you, Coach.
Well, I appreciate that. I think if there's one thing that I did, really well in terms of staff management in South Bend, it was, when I first got there, asking, especially the defensive back coaches, like, what do you guys do the best? Like what is your, if you had one coverage, what is the one thing that you guys love to do, better, think you could do better than anybody? So I'll give you a quick example. We're in there talking the other day as a staff, and somebody was presenting a concept. I can't get into that in terms of giving our secrets away, but
sure.
And it was a concept that I was familiar with, and there was kind of a new way to look at it. And immediately when that meeting was over, I said to Coach Hodges, I want you to spearhead this, because we're gonna adopt the way you know how to do it, because I like your version better than my version. And I could say the same thing with Chuck in terms of just Chuck's man-to-man tools and things that he's bringing, and then Jerry, excuse me, on the way he wants to fit the run. So I think the most important thing is I've learned over time is to listen, just sit back and listen and listen and listen. And the wheels are always turning for me, even though I'm not saying anything, and I'm writing things down. And then I'll circle back and say, well, we listened to A, B, C, and D, and B is by far the best version for us moving forward. And that's a great example that happened just, last week. So I'm excited to be around those guys.
Coach, the fact that you coached here in the last 2 years, basically 3 years, I should say, because you had 2 at Notre Dame, in the last 3 seasons in the National Football League and in college football. It hasn't been that long since you were grinding and game planning against the AFC North and other teams in the National Football League. You still have a handle on a lot of the coaches and a lot of the personnel in that regard. And then you're at Notre Dame for 2 seasons, working and game planning against the SEC, the Pac-12, the Big East, the Big 12. You have Duke Tobin and his staff, obviously, have done a heck of a job, and they always do, getting the organization ready for the draft. But man, if I'm Duke, I'm like, Coach, what do you got? I mean, give us some intel on some of these guys. You have a wide knowledge base for that draft day, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's already happened, and we've already had some guys in the meetings that either we went up against or had to study extensively. So and then obviously some insights into the Notre Dame kids for years to come. To be honest with you, not just this draft class, but for years to come. So no, it's great. It's I've been blessed, to have these opportunities, and I'll contribute whatever I need to do. I'm not afraid to work. So whatever I need to do to make sure that we get these decisions right. And more than any year that I've been around, this is a big puzzle on defense this year. This is going to be a big puzzle, and it's going to be pieced together with retention, with free agent signings, and then ultimately through the draft. So, those three things are going to have to come together, and we're going to have to be correct in all three areas.
Along those lines as well, we talk about Coach Hodges and Coach Montgomery. Well, all the NFC teams on the schedule this year, Coach Hodges, like you said, was with New Orleans for a long stretch of time. So all those teams rotate through. So he game planned against all these teams that are on your schedule.
Yeah, NFC North. So Green Bay.
Right.
So Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, Chicago. So again, it's a tough schedule. All schedules are demanding. It's even more demanding when you're in the AFC North.
And then Jerry Montgomery, New England's on your schedule. The AFC East.
That's right.
New York Jets, Buffalo, Miami. I mean, there's been head coaching changes, but there's going to be in terms of, all right, boy, we game planned against that guy. That guy, he can do it, but he struggles with this. I mean, the knowledge that you're going to have with that coaching staff, that man, they work game plans, and against an entire unit, and specifically against their position group. It's going to be a lot of nice intel for you.
Yeah, I think the key is to build enough of it into our system in advance. So we're not just overwhelming players on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of game week.
Right.
There's always going to be tweaks. I think the biggest thing is build enough of it in so there's recall, and there's continuous recall, whether it's OTA minicamp phase, in that phase, preseason camp, and then ultimately as you enter the season.
So, Coach, give us this is my final question for you, and certainly do appreciate your patience and your knowledge. This has been as good a half hour as I've ever spent. I can tell you that, talking football with a football guy, no question about it. So, give us a look at what your schedule is going to be like. You're at the combine, like we said. You're in Indianapolis. You're scouting these players for the upcoming draft. With your staff, what kind of time do you have? Then you have some time off. You come back. You get ready for, OTAs, mini camps, training camp, all that sort of thing. Give us a quick synopsis of what's going on before you start, training camp at Paycor Stadium.
Yeah, so we did a lot of the 30,000 foot view, if you will, of the defense and where we're at, and obviously ideas relative to a specific concept. We've done that. So now when we get back from the combine, we're going to drill down on each one and make hard choices in terms of, hey, we want to call it this, we want to call it that. And if we do this, this is the concept that we want to go to. So that's number one. And then, we'll be off to some pro days. And then it's about getting organized, giving our players good action plans that they feel like they can execute to improve. Obviously, the individual improvement leads to collective improvement of the defense. So we'll have action plans ready for them when they come back, and then we'll dig in with them and really teach in OTAs and in the mini camp, and then we'll go from there.
Coach, one final comment, and as a former offensive lineman, the fact that you've got Scott Peters with the New England Patriots as last year as the offensive line coach, Jerry Montgomery with the New England Patriots as your defensive line coach. I can't wait as an offensive lineman to watch. And I know in OTAs, it's going to be, no pads, no helmet and all that stuff. but the offensive and defensive line, they've already worked against each other. They've already scripted against each other. I think you're going to hit the ground running, man, up front. And that's where games are won and lost, man, in the trenches. I can't wait to watch these two guys work, in practice and in training camp and everything, because they've already done it. They're real familiar with each other, man. It's going to be awesome.
No, it's great. And I've had a chance to meet Scott too, and excited to work with him. And you already mentioned Jerry. So it's a good group. We got a couple more days here of evaluations. We got to get it right. I've been writing my notes up during the day and then go over there from 7 to 11 every day, just interviewing guys, and we'll transition to the field tomorrow at 1:00, and we'll see how that goes.
Man, that's so important too, Coach, those meetings. I mean, man, the physical part of it is huge, but the mental part of it and the personality part of it, that's all huge as well, isn't it?
Well, it is. I think, process, for me, process always let you be a pro, and priorities allowed you longevity, in this business. And
love that.
Yeah. So I think, we're looking for guys that come with that.
Yeah.
It's easier to evaluate and accrue that kind of talent and that kind of mentality than it is to try to change when they get here. But if they have a process and they have priorities, you're both going to get a pro, and you're going to get someone for the long haul. And I think that's what Coach Zach is looking for.
Man, the ability to learn, Coach. I mean, you've got so many tentacles out there in the collegiate ranks and in the professional ranks about players. And yeah, man, this guy's a physical talent. He doesn't, and it takes him a little while to process and learn. Or this guy, he might not look all that great, if he's doing some tests. But this dude, man, he's got high football IQ. He plays a lot better than he looks when he's working out,
100%. All right, Dave, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, me too, Coach. I lied to you. I said I'd get you out, and I had more. Like I said, I could talk to you probably 6 hours. I know you've got all kinds of things cooking. You couldn't have been kinder. You couldn't have been more unbelievable with the knowledge that you imparted. So appreciate you so much.
All right, Dave. Thanks. Have a great day.
Have a great combine. Dave Lapham here. While games are over for the season, there's no off-season for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham or First Star Logistics. First Star Logistics gave away great prizes during the season, which will continue with exclusive content in the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. So please, do me a favor. Subscribe to In the Trenches, hit the like button, and visit the First Star Media Group YouTube channel for exclusive content and special giveaways.